Hi guys, today we're going to look at the market equilibrium price, or otherwise known as the market price. In episode 6, demand, and episode 7, supply, see the links below, I have looked at the two individual components of the price mechanism, and I said in those videos as well, the interaction between demand and supply forms my market price, or my equilibrium price. The market price, or the market equilibrium price, is where the consumer and the supplier are happy to either buy that specific quantity or supply that specific quantity. Any other point which is not the equilibrium point where they intersect is known as a disequilibrium point. So there's only one equilibrium point. And that equilibrium point then links back to the market price. So all other points on that graph of yours is seen as a disequilibrium point. Only one is seen as the equilibrium, and there's only one market price formed between those. At your equilibrium point, you have an equilibrium price. I normally refer to it as PE on the graph, and an equilibrium quantity, I refer to it as QE on the graph. On any point where I have this equilibrium, something needs to happen to my price in order to get it back to the equilibrium price. For example, if there is excess supply, so in other words, my supply is greater than my demand. So the consumers are not very happy to pay that price, and the supplier is obviously very happy to supply at the higher price. So at this point of excess supply, what do you think needs to happen to price in order to get back to equilibrium? Well, it will need to decrease. Because if they find a nice middle ground between the consumer and the supplier, then there might be a market formed. And if I have, say for example, excess demand, where my demand is greater than my supply, so the consumers are very, very happy to buy at a very low price, and the supplier is not so keen on supplying at that very low price. What needs to happen to my price in order to go back to the equilibrium? Well, it will need to increase so that my consumer will have to pay a little bit more, but the supplier will also gain a little bit on the increase in the price. Then he's happy to supply. Otherwise, there's no supply. I'm going to illustrate what happens to the price, the equilibrium price, and the equilibrium quantity if either or my demand curve or my supply curve had to shift. So for example, if my demand had to increase, so there is an outward shift of my demand curve, an increase in demand, so maybe caused by people's incomes increasing, so your whole population's incomes increase, so that could mean potentially more demand in your whole economy. So what would that say in terms of what's going to happen to my price? So if I start, I have to go and put down a normal demand curve and a normal supply curve on my graph, and from there on I will show the outward shift of my demand. And if my demand increases, if you think about it, if people demand more but your supply kind of stays the same, what is going to happen to the price? It's going to increase. A second scenario I can look at is, what if my supply decreases? So maybe there's a shortage in the resources I need to produce my product. That could lead to supply decreasing. So again, I'll start with a normal demand and supply curve to show my original equilibrium and my original market price and my original market quantity. And then I'll show the shift in the supply, the inward shift of my supply curve, because there's a decrease. If you think about it logically, if there is less products being supplied but the demand has not changed, it is going to lead to my price increasing. And this will also be shown on the graph. A third scenario I want to look at is, say for example, there's a decrease in demand. Say for example, caused by governments increasing taxes on personal income, which will mean that people have less disposable income to use on spending on products. And this could lead to my demand curve shifting inwards. There's a decrease in demand. And if you think about it, if my demand had to decrease and my supply stayed the same, what is going to happen to price? Price is going to decrease as well, because there's no demand or less demand. The fourth scenario I want to illustrate using my graph is if there is an increase in supply. So say for example, better use of technology. You using the best machinery or the best computer systems on the market, and that could potentially, if you used it well, lead to an increase in supply, an outward shift of the supply curve. And if you think about it, if my supply had to increase, there's no more products on the market of that product, it could lead to my price decreasing, because it's now less scarce. There's more on the market of that product. Okay, so that is how I get my market price, by the interaction of demand and supply. And typical Cambridge questions would ask, so what would happen to the price or the market price and the market quantity if, say, for example, incomes of people had to increase, which would be that first scenario I was talking about, say, of the demand then increasing. And if demand increases, the price would increase as well. So you need to look at the scenario they give you and then interpret that, and always use a graph. It is demand and supply after all. So you could use demand and supply, the graphs, to illustrate or to support your answer. It's always better that way. Thank you guys for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And for more notes, please go and visit cambridgenotes.com. See the link below. Thank you guys. Bye.